in peace. That's what these officers are. They are peace officers, and I want them to help me remain in peace. And with it's not that I don't agree with all the statutes or the bylaws or any of the acts that have been instituted by our parliament or by any of the courts. I I'm confused as to why this is such a there's so much more crime going on, right? And when we talk about things like 9/11, in Ottawa, we went to the police headquarters a couple weeks ago and held up signs in front of the RCMP headquarters, and basically, it's they're supposed to be helping us with this. When I got involved in the 9/11 truth stuff, I started asking police officers, what do you think about this? Don't you think that we should be talking about this?
I remember that.
It's not so much that the Canadian police officers really have anything involved with 9/11, but our government does, and that's what we've been pretty much trying to do, especially with We Are Change. Talking to the ministers, right?
Hmm.
The so-called ministers. But I do feel that we, as truthers, by definition, we are the ministers. We're the ones who have a duty to provide a service, to simply ask questions and continue going down the rabbit hole and being truthful about what it is that we know for sure.
Well, it's good to wake up the cops because they're the ones who are going to be put, as well as the army, in the role of enforcing the New World Order. Largely.
Once it comes into full fruition, and they're
well, look at in the States. Okay, you got all these awake cops, and they're oath keepers. They sworn to uphold the Constitution, and that's what they intend to do. And when they see that the laws, the government is going in a way that's against the Constitution, they refuse to participate, right? They refuse to enforce that. So it's good to wake up the cops and maybe make them realize that they, as well as everyone else, is being lied to and used, and that would probably further the cause. I just point out, okay, I went and talked to a cop once about tasers, just to see where they stood on it,
Mm-hmm.
and he said they only had 2 in Montreal, and I asked him how he felt about tasers, and he said there should be more. And I said, well, what about all these people who've been injured by them or have been killed by them in situations where they wouldn't normally have used a gun? And what he said was that, well, those people probably would have died anyway, which just goes to show that that's how they program them. They just totally lie to them. Like, this is just an example. They tell them, well, he would have probably died if you'd thrown him on the ground because he probably had a weak heart or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the cops are totally clueless, but maybe if they're made more aware of, facts, like maybe individual cases with the tasers, or if they know about 9/11, that it was a controlled demolition, they might start questioning things. And it's good because they're supposed to be the authority figures, but they could be just as asleep as anyone else and enforcing this tyrannical system without even realizing what they're doing. Because they're maybe not bad people. They just don't really know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned tasers, because the gentleman who died being tased by the RCMP in Vancouver at the airport, I believe he died on the 15th of April. And next week I've been seeing some mention of it's international, or maybe it's just North American, Educate the Police Day. So this is a time, that guy who died, a gentleman died by being tasered, and there's so much in the news about the actual level of education among the police officers and their training with regards to tasers. And then, yeah, you're right, it leads into everything else, like 9/11 and all that sort of stuff. Where does their jurisdiction begin and end when it comes down to enforcing the peace of the people that the oath keepers are talking about? Their first oath is to serve and protect the people. And in order to honor that oath, they need to be truthful to all of the things that they know, similar to the way that like Richard Gage, he's truthful to what he's knowing, and he's upholding the peace that he needs to have in his life by doing what he's doing, traveling around, using the gifts that he has in order to do what he feels he must.
Well, there's a problem if they're sworn to serve and protect the people, and a corporation has the same status as a person. You see what I'm saying? Then they're also sworn to protect the corporations, who of course have more power. And so then in the end, the whole thing is subverted like that, so that they're not actually serving and protecting the human beings. They're serving and protecting the corporations, which is then just enforcing fascism.
It seems like a very, very complicated process that it's very hard to understand. And by definition, if you don't understand it, then you usually end up abusing it or misusing it.
But when you were driving, you have this license that was out of date or suspended.
Suspended.
And it's suspended, and you were driving like that for months, though, weren't you?
No.
Traveling.
Traveling, yes, by definition,
I
traveling.
got the impression that you were driving, traveling, with this suspended license, and that you were getting stopped on a regular basis, but you were allowed to continue traveling. Is that not correct?
I'm not sure exactly when my license was suspended, or whether the officer in London was the first time that that I was actually informed of this. I'm not sure when exactly the date was. When I was.
Didn't you not have it on you?
Oh, I always had it on me, but I haven't shown my license by the actual license. I usually give the ownership, and they can look up all the information simply by the license plate, which is by it's theirs.
So
they own it.
You do have a license plate though.
Oh
Is
yes.
that correct?
Oh yes.
Okay. Do you have?
Sorry, go ahead, Karen.
I was wondering, do you have insurance or anything?
Absolutely.
Oh, you do. Okay. Just making sure.
Also, side note, I'm not a free man on the land.
Right, you haven't submitted your notice and your claim of right.
And at this point, I don't intend to.
So, aren't you supposed to show them your license when you get stopped, license and registration? Are you supposed to do that?
You're actually supposed to protect that license by in the fine print when you sign to get your license. You're supposed to protect that piece of their property. It's essentially it's theirs. I woke up to all of this actually when it got down to buying my license plate. I was purchasing a license plate for my camper that read TRTHACTN, Truth Action, without the vowels. And they wrote me a notice, telling me that if I didn't submit a essay explaining why that wasn't politically incorrect or offensive in some way, then I wasn't going to be issued this license plate. So I asked I asked myself who then owns the license plate. So I called them and said, I've already purchased this product. It's mine. I've spent the money on it already. You've already deducted it from my account. How come it is not mine? Oh, and then this lady in Kingston actually, who I called and talked to, she explained to me that the license plates are actually the property of the province. They're not mine. And then it also leads into the license that they issue at the license bureau. It's not yours, it's theirs. That's why they have jurisdiction, and that's why we're being so easily deceived right now, in the sense that you are holding a piece of their property. They're going to ask for it, and that piece of property is to create joinder with you, and joinder is to bring you into contract.
But if let's say you drive a car without a license, you don't have a license plate, you don't have a license, you don't have a registration, are you then not under their jurisdiction? If you haven't submitted your notice of intent and your claim of right?
If you haven't submitted your notice, intent, and claim of right, which basically and said that you are a part of the Free Man on the Land Society or any other society that you might name, then you are still technically in trust underneath the Crown.
So then you have to have the license and registration.
You are still a flesh and blood human being with the ability to make the decision for yourself.